Hello and welcome to Miss Clark Reads to You. Today I am reading my Kindle version of Tuesdays with Morrie. I will be reading the curriculum and the syllabus. Then I will have accompanying videos for the student, the audiovisual, the orientation, the classroom, and taking attendance. I would like to start with Mitch Album's acknowledgments. I would like to acknowledge the enormous help given to me in creating this book. For their memories, their patience, and their guidance, I wish to thank Charlotte Robb and Jonathan Schwartz, Morrie Stein, Charlie Derber, Gordy Fellman, David Schwartz, Rabbi Al Axelrad, and the multitude of Morrie's friends and colleagues. Also, special thanks to Bill Thomas, my editor, for handling this project with just the right touch. And as always, my appreciation to David Black, who often believes in me more than I do myself. Mostly my thanks to Morrie for wanting to do this last thesis together. Have you ever had a teacher like this? So right in the acknowledgments, Mitch Album sets us up to know that this is a memoir, which is a piece of nonfiction, and memoir for memory, meaning that this is a true story that happened to Mitch Album, and it is a reflection, a deeper reflection of what that portion of his life that he is remembering brought him in his learning. The curriculum. The last class of my old professor's life took place once a week in his house by a window in the study where he could watch a small hibiscus plant shed its pink leaves. The class met on Tuesdays. It began after breakfast. The subject was the meaning of life. It was taught from experience. No grades were given, but there were oral exams each week. You were expected to respond to questions, and you were expected to pose questions of your own. You were also required to perform physical tasks now and then, such as lifting the professor's head to a comfortable spot on the pillow, or placing his glasses on the bridge of his nose. Kissing him goodbye earned you extra credit. No books were required, yet many topics were covered, including love, work, community, family, aging, forgiveness, and finally death. The last lecture was brief. Only a few words. A funeral was held in lieu, instead of, graduation. Although no final exam was given, you were expected to produce one long paper on what was learned, and that paper is presented here. The last class of my old professor's life had only one student. I was the student. And so here begins Mitch Album's tale of his last class with his favorite professor, Morrie Schwartz. It is the late spring of 1979, a hot, sticky Sunday afternoon. Hundreds of us sit together side by side in rows of wooden folding chairs on the main campus lawn. We wear blue nylon robes. We listen impatiently to long speeches. When the ceremony is over, we throw our caps in the air, and we are officially graduated from college, the senior class of Brandeis University in the city of Waltham, Massachusetts. For many of us, the curtain has just come down on childhood. Afterward, I find Morrie Schwartz, my favorite professor, and introduce him to my parents. He's a small man who takes small steps, as if a strong wind could at any time whisk him up into the clouds. In his graduation day robe, he looks like a cross between a biblical prophet and a Christmas elf. That's a great simile. And just see this little person with this wise look, but this cute little, if you've ever seen Elf and you see the Papa Elf, just that looks like that. He has sparkling blue-green eyes, thinning silver hair, and that spills onto his forehead, big ears, a triangular nose, and tufts of graying eyebrows. Although his teeth are crooked and his lower ones are slanted back, as if someone had once punched them in, when he smiles, it's as if you just told him the first joke on earth. He tells my parents how I took every class he taught. He tells them, "You have a special boy here." Embarrassed, I look at my feet. Before we leave, I hand my professor a present, a tan briefcase with his initials on the front. I bought this the day before at a shopping mall. I didn't want to forget him. Maybe I didn't want him to forget me. "Mitch, you're one of the good ones," he says, admiring the briefcase. Then he hugs me. I feel his thin arms around my back. I am taller than he is, and when he holds me, I feel awkward, older, as if I were the parent and he were the child. He asks if I will stay in touch, and without hesitation I say, "Of course." When he steps back, I see that he is crying. The syllabus. So before we move on to the syllabus, let's just say that Mitch is going to come in and out of present dealings with Morrie and slip into past experiences with Morrie. So the present is the new class, and the past is any time he goes back into college. So let's just write that down as a note to ourselves. So the curriculum is last class of professor's life, and the curriculum is a big paper, which is this book, Tuesdays with Morrie. And then we get this 1979 memory of the gift of the briefcase. And then we get these words from Mitch. Of course I'm going to keep in touch. Okay? And now we'll move to the syllabus. His death sentence came in the summer of 1994. Looking back, Morrie knew something bad was coming long before that. He knew it the day he gave up dancing. He had always been a dancer, my old professor. The music didn't matter. Rock and roll, big band, the blues. Oh, he loved them all. He would close his eyes and with blissful smile begin to move to his own sense of rhythm. It wasn't always pretty. But then, he didn't worry about a partner. Morrie danced by himself. He used to go to this church in Harvard Square every Wednesday night for something called Dance Free. They had flashing lights and booming speakers, and Morrie would wander in among the mostly student crowd wearing a white t-shirt and black sweatpants and a towel around his neck, and whatever music was playing, that's the music to which he danced. He'd do the Lindy to Jimi Hendrix. He twisted and twirled, he waved his arms like a conductor on amphetamines until sweat was dripping down the middle of his back. No one there knew he was a prominent doctor of sociology with years of experience as a college professor and several well-respected books. They just thought he was some old nut. Once he brought a tango tape and got them to play it over the speakers, and then he commandeered the floor, shooting back and forth like a hot Latin lover. And when he finished, everyone applauded. He could have stayed in that moment forever, but then the dancing stopped. He developed asthma in his 60s, and his breathing became labored. One day, he was walking along the Charles River, and a cold burst of wind left him choking for air, and he was rushed to the hospital and injected with adrenaline. A few years later, he began to have trouble walking. At a birthday party for a friend, he stumbled inexplicably, meaning not able to be explained. Another night, he fell down the steps of a theater, startling a small crowd of people. "Give him air!" someone yelled. He was in his 70s by this point, and so they whispered, "Old age," and helped him to his feet. But Morrie, who was always more in touch with his insides than the rest of us, knew something else was wrong. This was more than old age. He was weary all the time. He had trouble sleeping. He dreamt he was dying. He began to see doctors, lots of them. They tested his blood, they tested his urine, they put a scope up his rear end and looked inside his intestines. Finally, when nothing could be found, one doctor ordered a muscle biopsy, taking a small piece out of Morrie's calf. The lab report came back suggesting a neurological problem, and Morrie was brought in for yet another series of tests. In one of those tests, he sat in a special seat as they zapped him with electrical current, an electric chair of sorts, and studied his neurological responses. We need to check this further, the doctor said, looking over his results. Why? Morrie asked. What is it? We're not sure. Your times are slow. His times are slow? What did that mean? Finally, on a hot, humid day in August 1994, Morrie and his wife, Charlotte, went to the neurologist's office, and he asked them to sit before he broke the news. Morrie had amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, a brutal, unforgiving illness of the neurological system. There was no known cure. How'd I get it? Morrie asked. Nobody knew. Is it terminal? Yes. So I'm going to die. Yes, you are, the doctor said. I'm very sorry. He sat with Morrie and Charlotte for nearly 2 hours, patiently answering their questions. When they left, the doctor gave them some information on ALS, little pamphlets, as if they were opening a bank account. Outside, the sun was shining and people were going about their business. A woman ran to put money in the parking meter. Another carried groceries. Charlotte had a million thoughts running through her mind. How much time do we have left? How will we manage? How will we pay the bills? My old professor, meanwhile, was stunned by the normalcy of the day around him. Shouldn't the world stop? Don't they know what's happened to me? But the world did not stop. It took no notice at all. And as Morrie pulled weakly on the car door, he felt as if he were dropping into a hole. Now what? He thought. So this is an amazing simile. When he gets this news of ALS, he will die. Felt as if dropping into a hole. And this is a simile. And you can imagine what this simile means. When you drop into a hole, you just fall. No way out. There's no way out of this. So we have Mitch, we have Morrie, we have Charlotte. Those are the characters we've been introduced to so far. I'm going to read a couple more paragraphs and then I'll stop and create another video. As my old professor searched for answers, the disease took him over day by day, week by week. He backed the car out of the garage one morning and could barely push the brakes, and that was the end of driving. He kept tripping, so he purchased a cane. That was the end of his walking free. He went for his regular swim at the YMCA, but he found he could no longer undress himself, so he hired his first home care worker, a theology student named Tony, who helped him in and out of the pool and in and out of his bathing suit. In the locker room, the other swimmers pretended not to stare. They stared anyhow, and that was the end of his privacy. In the fall of 1994, Morrie came to the hilly Brandeis campus to teach his final college course. He could have skipped this, of course. The university would have understood. Why suffer in front of so many people? Stay home. Get your affairs in order. But the idea of quitting did not occur to Morrie. And this is just a glimpse of the deep, wonderful person Morrie is. We'll pick up there in our next reading of Tuesdays with Morrie. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to reading to you again.